All right.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. This is a wonderful meeting.
Oh, this is the other way.
There we go. All right. Well, YLACES, in many ways supports the GLOBE program and lots of things that go on with GLOBE. We've also been major advocates for GLOBE's move to having student research and having it be a major portion of the GLOBE program, whether it's the International Virtual Science Symposia or the Science Symposia around the United States. We're very much in favor of that being where we go to get the students to really understand and think scientifically and really have internalized the scientific method. So there we go.
She's moving it.
Okay, great. So basically our thing is you learn science by doing science, and we support. Oh, the post is spot. Okay. So we do all of these things. If you heard Allison Leitner's answer to one of the questions yesterday, her answer about what her objectives are and looking forward for the whole GLOBE program, they exactly match what YLACES is about. That we want students to learn and carry into their adulthood the ability to think scientifically and to use that ability to deal with problems, whether they're personal and local or worldwide policy decisions that they are citizens making an effect in. So we've supported lots of different ways of doing this. Some of you have received equipment from us or materials or supplies. We've also supported both local and regional science research symposia. We've made the Youth Environmental Science Medal and given a grant to the organizations designated by our medal winners. And we are out there actively advocating, as we're doing today, for including student research in science and environmental education. So students will come away with that real learning of science. Next. So there you see it. Equip the rising generation with scientific habits of mind, a phrase that the National Science Foundation taught me when I was responsible for their budget. And basically, we're going to need that. I mean, we're facing all kinds of decisions as stewards of the earth, but also as stewards of our local communities and even making wise decisions for ourselves. And the ability to think scientifically really helps complete our intellectual learning that begins in the humanities with communication skills and continues into the social sciences with skills for getting along and working with one another. We need to work with the outside world, the earth and the universe. And doing that requires to have scientific understanding. Next. Okay, so there's some examples of grants we've given. The Harris Center in New Hampshire did macroinvertebrate sampling. We provided equipment. 600 students in multiple schools have gone out and taken samples of water bodies and following the macroinvertebrates, the freshwater macroinvertebrate protocol of GLOBE. And that's a real indicator of water quality, a nice biological indicator of water quality. In Detroit, we had upper elementary and middle schools, and they went out and did water quality monitoring and also collected weather data and used them to compare and collect GLOBE data right there in a very urban setting. You don't have to be out in the countryside to do this, to do GLOBE. And then Southfield Elementary School did water quality measurements as well, both for the Chesapeake Bay Foundation and for GLOBE. So here in Maryland, near where I am, there are lots of folks working together. NOAA, the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, the Maryland Association for Environmental and Outdoor Education, and many local schools. So By the way, you may notice those 3 grants all focused on water quality. And one of the reasons is for that, as we were emphasizing what are called meaningful watershed experiences, which are now required in the state of Maryland by statute. And we were highlighting these 3 grants, which all dealt with supporting that. Next. There we go. Grant guidelines. All right, we've tightened and modified our guidelines as we've learned and gone on. One of the key things is that we're now looking for proposals that include getting all the way to student research, not just collecting data for Globe or other programs, but actually this having a process included in what the grant supports that gets all the way to the students doing research projects. They could be research projects which are shared through Globe, but they can also be shared through other programs. The key is that they be presented by the students. So we also love to see, and have actually, without working very hard at it, provided opportunities for students from under-resourced schools, for underserved places. We've helped bring students into student research symposia who might have never met a scientist, and really open the world and the world's eyes to them, as well as in general for all the students learning to see themselves as scientists. Then as I discovered several years ago at a meeting of the Citizen Science Association, half the various environmental monitoring citizen science things that were presented at the conference were questions of environmental justice. And so we fit into that as well, perhaps in the future as we pick up monitoring of air quality more locally than rather just through the aerosol protocol, that we can get to where we're really contributing, but there are other ways in which our temperature monitoring contributes to this whole question about who's experiencing real environmental problems and who's experiencing environmental problems that are worse. And is that because they're poor or have been in other ways discriminated against? That's not right. It's our environment for all of us. And we need all of us to have a chance to live in the cleanest, best possible environment that we can get at. Next. Yes. Is there another slide?
There we go.
Okay, so there you go. There's our web address, YLACES.org, and grant guidelines. Now, our next deadline is actually in January 2023, but we'll accept proposals at any time and take a look at them, particularly if they're not overly lengthy. But it also means I like ones that are really good and that actually get all the way from what we can do to help get the process started all the way to the students actually doing research and really incorporating this scientific thinking ability into their mindset. So we encourage you to consider it. If a grant will make a big difference for your organization or you as an educator, don't worry, there's a way to go after it. All right. Now, in summary, I love it. So next we have, let's see. We've got a video we're going to show.
Are you ready for it, Dixon?
I'm ready for it.
Awesome.
The problems of today increasingly require critical thinking to solve. Students across the globe need to be prepared to tackle these environmental problems with wisdom and scientific thinking ability. YLACES, or Youth Learning of Citizen Environmental Scientists, is a nonprofit devoted to providing opportunities for students to experience being scientists by conducting research and presenting their results as scientists at student research symposia.
We got some basic equipment. The very favorite thing that you brought to them were the infrared thermometers, and the minute they had one in their hands, they felt like they were a real NASA scientist.
By supporting students with access to affordable, consumer-friendly technologies such as water quality monitors, handheld GPS devices, and inexpensive scientific instruments, YLACES supports young citizen scientists to contribute meaningful, reliable environmental measurements.
Through your generosity, we launched the very first weather STEM station in the state of Michigan. We found out that our weather station could push data to the GLOBE program. So not only could our students use this data, which they have with their GLOBE projects, but scientists from around the world could use the data that was being collected in Gibraltar, Michigan.
YLACES has created more than 100 grants totaling over $500,000, benefiting students around the United States and the world. The resulting investigations have engaged students in meaningful research, raised awareness of environmental issues through air and water quality monitoring, built understanding of ecosystems, and sent students to regional and local symposia to present their research.
So we had conductivity, dissolved oxygen, E. coli, alkalinity, pH, and temperature. But is there any other additional protocol you would want to use? Say if you could start over again.
At Student Research Symposium, students gain the opportunity to present their findings and receive feedback from professionals and peers. Students presenting their research are treated as scientists and therefore see themselves as scientists.
I discovered a real love for environmental science and fieldwork. It's a good experience here. You learn a lot. Yeah.
Being able to talk to people who are actually in the field that you want to go into and seeing what it could be like in the next couple of years since you're graduating is really awesome.
While students study their environment, they learn to think scientifically in addressing problems. Join us in becoming the rising generation of scientific thinkers and stewards of our planet Earth.
All right. Well, thank you all. If you thought you were hearing my voice, the reason is the voiceover was recorded by my son, and at least when he was in high school, girls would call up and start talking to me thinking I was him, and I had to quickly discourage them. So, but thanks to you all, we've apparently gotten some very nice comments on it. And now I'm going to introduce Shannon, who's one of our grantees, and she's going to talk about her results.
Hi, everybody. I'm Shannon Connor. My pronouns are she, her. I'm an education program coordinator for a program called Watershed Guardians at the Pacific Grove Museum of Natural History in Monterey, California. Go ahead. Watershed Guardians is a student community science program that I'm the sole educator for it. I take students out into our local watersheds and get them out of their classroom and doing science. The program's been through several redevelopments over the past 5 or 8 years. Most recently with me coming on board in this past September, where we changed focus to completely be project-based learning, hoping that kids can have 1 to 5 day experiences with Watershed Guardians, where I can come into the classroom, teach them a little bit about the science behind what we're doing and why it's important, and then getting them out into the classroom or out into the field to take their own data. And those longer experiences are true project-based learning experiences where they can create their own research projects. We can do some data analysis. We use the question formulation technique to create testable hypothesis. And even we're even going to be hosting a student research symposium this spring. Next. There are 2 facets of Watershed Guardians. We have the students that are in grades 6 to 12 that come out with me and take their water quality data, but we also have adult volunteers that we've looped into it. When I was reading through and getting trained on GLOBE, I saw one of the things somewhere said that, like, in a perfect world, we would collect our water quality data once a week at each site. And I said, there's absolutely no way that I'm going to be able to get students out in the field every single week. So in order to help supplement our data and get more of a robust data set locally that students can use, we have some adult volunteers that go out into the field to collect data using the same protocols that the kids would, but that way there's more a longevity of data for students to use. And then they can also compare using Globe, using the Globe database to see other habitats worldwide, maybe ones that are very similar to them or ones that are different from them. Next. We use Vernier Go Direct probes, which were generously funded through YLACES. We initially bought those to actually just use with our adult volunteers. And when I started, I said, these are amazing. They use Bluetooth technology. They can connect to an iPhone, and students read their results on an iPhone. And I thought the novelty of that, getting a kid to use what's in their pocket that they use to like watch stupid videos all the time to actually do science is going to be a great opportunity for them. So the iPhone interface allows us to Bluetooth connect to those probes, as well as run the Globe data collection app, which I just found out today. I can now use the Globe Observer app to enter my hydrosphere protocol or my hydrosphere data, which I'm really excited about. We also use transparency tubes and Lamont test kits for alkalinity. We also do a couple of take a couple measurements that are not in the Globe database because I feel they're super important to our drought-ridden environment in California. So we take a depth measurement and a flow rate measurement just so that we can compare, and I store that data separately. Next. So historically, Watershed Guardians was focused on the affluent populations of the Carmel River watershed right around the Monterey Peninsula. And this past school year, we received a grant from the Hardin Foundation that allowed us to expand our service to the Salinas River watershed. So if you see on the map there, the little tiny light blue area is the Carmel River watershed. The rest of that highlighted is the Salinas River watershed. So it's allowing us to get out into the valley where there's a lot of agriculture and a lot of students that wouldn't have access to these science opportunities. The photo in the bottom left is a property called Carr Lake, owned by the Big Sur Land Trust. And it is a it is a wetland that has been converted to farmlands over the past many years. But since Big Sur Land Trust purchased the property, they're working with their community to restore it back to the wetland in the next 5 years or so, or to start restoring it back to a wetland in the next 5 years or so. So that's one of the places that's actually like 2 miles from several of the middle schools and high schools that we work with, that we're able to get students out, and they'll be able to see how the water quality changes over the next few years as the property changes itself. And next. We also have been able to work a lot with the Monterey County Office of Education Migrant Education Program. And that's something that we've been doing for many years, but this year we were able to do a 3-day spring break program that was over capacity. I extended capacity and allowed 35 students to come, even though I typically only allow about 30, and we still had to turn students away, and there was a wait list because I can only physically work with that many kids on a watershed at one time. And I offered them the opportunity to participate in the Globe Research Symposium that was hosted at the Elkhorn Slough, which I was able to bring these 6 kids with the help of the Monterey County Office of Education transporting them. I was able to help these students produce this research poster and participate in the research symposium, giving them confidence to present in both English and Spanish. They were the only group to have both English and Spanish on their poster. They also were able to receive all 4 awards from the Globe Symposium that none of the other groups did. And that is something that I'm hoping to be able to do more of in the coming year. I've been working with Peggy Folletta at the Elkhorn Slough to either have a separate research symposium for them next year that's a qualifier for whatever Peggy does, or we'll host one big one together next year, which I'm super excited for.
I think that was your last slide, Shannon.
Yes, that was my last slide.
Awesome.
Shannon, thank you so much. I must admit, I'm on the edge of tears with joy for seeing how our grant works with your partnerships with many local organizations to really expand the idea and reach a far greater set of students. We might have time for one quick question.
Go for it. Yep. Before we show Jody's presentation. Yep.
Okay. I may need help reading it from the. It'll be on in the comments in the section.
Yeah, no problem, Dixon. I'm not seeing any questions yet. Just amazing
All right.
praises for all the work that you're doing, Dixon, and then of course all the work you're doing too, Shannon, with these grants and opportunities.
You know, there's so many wonderful things you could see in Shannon's presentation. One was the strength which she gained from other local organizations, recognizing that they could work with her and build to a larger activity. The other was getting a wide variety of students out into the field. The other was tapping into, if you will, these lifelong learners who would chip in and help take more frequent measurements. From the very beginning of Globe, we've seen adults who live near Globe schools were willing to cover student measurements when the students were on vacation. So that kind of partnership has been there and has long lines of background deep into Globe. It's amazing how we can work together on these environmental problems and environmental understanding. And it's just such a joy to be a part of that. I think we might as well go on then. If we don't see a question, let's go on to Jody.